Whoa, ho, ho. Hey, hi. So I decided to do a thing, and I feel like I've gotten kind of lazy. And I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. The whole live streaming thing started, and I was like, yeah, I can just live stream the podcast straight to YouTube. And it got to a point where I feel like the production quality kind of waned a little bit. I feel like I kind of stopped giving a shit about the podcast. And I mean, when coronavirus happened, the numbers dipped. So I was like, okay, what does it matter? We'll just do it live. We'll just do everything live from now on. And it got to the point where I realized the camera that I'm using, it doesn't come out as well when I'm doing the streaming thing. And I have this really nice camera. Why not use what I have? Why not use my knowledge of how to edit video? You know, I feel like maybe if I up the production quality of the podcast a little bit, we could take it up a notch. Maybe it'll be more interesting to watch. Maybe it'll be less of just like watching two people on a Zoom call. I kind of got bored of that. I mean, we're still doing the socially distanced thing. And this week is no different. A socially distanced conversation with my friend Ryan Bartek, who I've known since 2002 or 3. And he's always been a very intense dude. And let's just say in this podcast, we're going to go places that I don't understand. And he seems to have a pretty good understanding of what's going on with the whole coronavirus thing. Now, the thing about this is his understanding of what's going on with the coronavirus is completely different than 9.9 out of 10 people. He's way more vigilant than most about protecting himself and about trying to protect others. And it's an interesting conversation because he's full of knowledge that he collected himself on the internet, and that really, it kind of negates what we've been told. So, is Ryan Bartek right? That's the question. I'm not going to say he's not because I don't know anything about anything. All I know is California's on fire, the homeless population is rampant, and one of these days we're all going to run out of that money. And what do you do then? I know my girlfriend and I, we're getting the fuck out. We're going to go back to Michigan. We're going to go back to Michigan where we could live a humbler life. And this is the first time, I mean, I've mentioned this sort of on the internet, thinking about going back. But no, we're probably going to fucking go back. Our lease is up in February of 2021. And we're going to bounce the fuck out of California. It's been real. But if there's no shows, if there's no auditions, if there's no jobs, why are we here? Why are we spending over $1,000 for a 1-bedroom a month if we can't really make money? You know, I came out here to rock. I came out here to play music. I came out here to do that thing. Guess what? It's gone. It's no more. And do we know when it's coming back? No. So, you know, might as well take what little money we have and what little resources we have and just pool it, save it, go to my mom's house. You know, quarantine ourselves for 2 weeks. Make sure we don't get a test. Make sure we don't have the virus. When we come say, hey, Mom, we're going to live in your basement. Make the basement nice. She has a house in Dearborn. It's paid for. Let's go. Let's wait it out. You know, I'm not in any hurry to fucking get back to playing concerts. That shit, to me, it's fucking done. You know? Until we can have it come back just the way it was. I don't want to do no socially distanced shit. I don't want a bunch of people to wear masks and stand far away from each other. The best part about a fucking concert is that you can like cough into another person's mouth and just smile and laugh about it. I talked to Zoin from Wacko about it. When a band you love starts playing, next thing you know, your nuts are on someone else's butt. Nuts to butts. That's rock and roll to me. You know, and I've lived my whole life. I've had so much of it. I'm blessed. I've had a life full of music and adventure. And that's gone now. The adventure's gone. And especially for my friend Bartek, who we're going to delve into the SUPcast with. Real quick, while I got you on here, SUPcast is brought to you every week by the wonderful people at the Wendigo Tea Company. The proprietor of the Wendigo Tea Company is Mr. Sky White of the band Foxy Shazam. They have a new single out. Foxy Shazam is back. But is any band really back? Is any band really back? You know? But anyway, if you go to wendigoteacompany.com and you type in the promo code Neil, you'll get 15% off your entire order of this wonderful tea, which I've been drinking since the pandemic started. And it's good for your throat health. And then there's also green tea. There's black tea. There's oolong tea. There's all types of different teas. And Sky, he makes them with quality ingredients. So yeah, we're drinking tea. And my girlfriend Allie and I, we've been very vigilant. We've been very safe as far as I'm concerned. But after talking to Bartek, are we being safe enough? That's the question. Is Bartek delusional? That's a question you might ask if you listen to this podcast. Is Bartek, is he too paranoid? You may think so. But who knows? Maybe Bartek is right. I don't know. I'm just a dude, and Bartek is my friend. And we have this conversation, and that's what this SUPcast is. SUPcast number 53 with my friend Ryan Bartek. So that's the intro. I've been off social media for about 18 days now, and I'm feeling good. I'm going for walks. In fact, my tendinitis in my right foot came back because I've been walking so much. We've been walking 4.5 miles a day. Today I'm going to go on a bike ride, give my tendinitis a little rest. But yeah, we're going back to this format. This format is we're going to pre-record the podcast. I'm going to do a monologue, and I'm going to talk about my life. And then we're going to actually pre-record the interview, and I'm going to edit it and try to make it look nice because you know what? You deserve it. Do you? And it may be a little less boring than just watching a stream. You know, just, oh, hey, we're live. Okay, we're streaming. Okay, here we go. I don't know. Is that boring? Is anyone going to notice the uptick in the production quality? Does anybody even care? I don't know, but I care. So I'm going to start putting in the work. I'm going to start making the podcast better. So there you go. Enjoy my little monologue. And enjoy SUPcast with Ryan Bartek. And I just want to say, just because Ryan is on the show doesn't necessarily mean I'm saying everything that he's saying is the truth. I even asked him in the interview. I said, how did you get all this information? Why is it you're so much more hyper vigilant than the average Joe walking into a 7-Eleven? And he explains. Ryan Bartek explains his truth. Is it your truth? Is it my truth? I don't know. But maybe to err on the side of caution throughout all of this shit might help people a little bit. Or maybe, like he said maybe I'm delusional. It's tough to say. I don't know much about shit. I'm just a guy that plays guitar and talks into a camera and into a microphone. But here we are, 2020, 6 months into the pandemic, and talking about some heavy, heavy stuff that I don't necessarily know if I believe to be true or understand. But Ryan Bartek does, and he's a dude, and he cares about his community, and he cares about rock and roll and art and the punk rock ethos. And we managed to make it through our 20s, and we're almost through our 30s, which is insanity. The way we were living life, driving around the country, sleeping on people's floors and just smoking filterless Rollie cigarettes, chain smoking them, and driving through the night, doing drugs, making bad decisions, and playing lots of shows. I didn't think I was going to make it to 30, and Bartek was there when I was in my late 20s. Bartek was there when I was in my early 20s. Bartek is still here right now. And here is the conversation I had with Mr. Ryan Bartek. SUPcast, sup, and a sup. So right now being streamed on Twitch is just your face, Bartek. And then I'm in the corner. I can't get it to do the grid thing for some fucking reason.
This is my first time on Twitch too, I guess.
Yeah, here you go, baby. So say who you are. I know who you are, but tell the world who you are.
Well, hello everyone. My name's Ryan Bartek. I'm a journalist and a writer of sorts. I play music in the underground. I've had a number of heavy metal bands, metal and punk rock crossover bands. And currently I'm in Portland, Oregon, where I've been watching the whole situation you've seen on TV unfurl, as well as the lead up to it. I do some community work as well, and I just released 2 books in the past year, and a new record by my old band Skullmaster. Skullmaster, we played around Portland a lot. It's extreme metal of all kinds of varieties, and our album's a free download. It's called Voidwalkers if you Google it. My other 2 books, I put out a book called To Live and Die on Zug Island, which is about my youth up until about the age of 20 in Detroit, Dearborn, Michigan, and whatnot, and where I know Mr. Neil from originally.
Yeah.
And the other book I put out was shortly after the Skullmaster album, and that was in July, and it's a book called Unfilmed Cinema, which collects 3 movie screenplays that I composed over the past 20 years, and some of them came close to being made. But now that we're in the COVID era, I feel that Hollywood's pretty much shut down, so I might as well just put them out like it's a huge anthology, like Creepshow or something, Tales from the Crypt of movie screenplays, if you will. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm currently working on new music projects. My band Vulture Locust, an old grindcore band, is fairly well known in the underground, and I'm working on the follow-up, which is basically about everything that's happening these days, and kind of was in the first place because it was about dystopian sci-fi society gone mad, and now I have the other bulk of the writing material. So
Yeah, because it's happening in real time. Now, in 2004, well, first of all, you and I met in 2003 in Dearborn, Michigan at the Thunderdome.
2002.
Was it 02?
Yeah, it was 02.
Okay. Yeah, and I just remember we were having a party, and I was in my bedroom, and you were just there, and someone was like, "This is a guy you should talk to. This is Bartek." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He writes for Real Detroit Weekly, and I'm like, "Oh, cool." So then we just started talking music, but shortly after that, you became a fixture in everything that I did for years and years and years, and then joining us on the road for many, many years. I mean, countless hundreds of days spent in a van together, and looking back on it now, like the last time you and I mean, we got together in 2013 briefly, but we just did a couple shows. Like we did that we did that Portland thing, and Seattle. You were accosted by that man in his basement, but we can get into all that. Do you remember that Greg guy?
Yeah, he unfortunately passed away a little while ago. It's kind of a depressing tale that we don't have to talk about the depressing tale, but I'll tell you later. But yeah, he kind of passed away a little while ago. He was a decent guy, though.
No, he was a decent guy. Yeah, I know exactly what happened. I mean, that house that we all were partying at, that house caught on fire, and he died in the house fire, correct?
Yeah, and it wasn't all that long after we left, which was very freaky because it could have been us, you know? And
Makes
it was
you
just,
think.
it was like someone left a cigarette or something burning. It was like cigarette ash, that's what they thought. Yeah. It might have been an electrical thing, but it was likely like a cigarette. It was somebody fell asleep or something, and he was in the basement, I guess, and I guess the smoke would have got him.
Yeah.
But he threw a lot of shows in Seattle and like that area throughout for a good 10 years. So he was really well-known dude, and everybody was really shocked by what happened.
Yeah, he knew the Fishbone guys. That's how he and I met initially, and it's just wild because here you are, you're doing a show. It's not a great show, but the promoter is really nice and very excited about everything. And next thing you know, you're at his house. He's putting you up. You're partying. You're smoking weed in his basement. He's dancing around, and he's just this very alive person. Then all of a sudden, you go back to living your life, and all of a sudden, they're just not around anymore. And I feel like, I mean, you and I are approaching 40. I don't know if you're at 40 yet, but we're
almost.
Yeah, almost. I'll be there in February. But we're starting to, I feel like the older we get, the more we're starting to just know these people, and then all of a sudden they disappear. Like Jason Lockwood, for example, in 2012. I remember giving him a hug in 2011 and just being like, Jason's always going to be around. He's Lockwood. He's in the scene. And then one day he's just gone. And Mark Pants from Motor City Burgers. I remember very vividly the first time you and I saw the Motor City Burgers, and we're like, we're gonna like be friends with these guys. And he's gone. Like he's gone too. I don't. We're
Lockwood. I knew Lockwood actually fairly well. We worked at Idle Kids together in the old days, like in 2003, 2004, and we worked on a place called Tavern in the Park, which is now the Broderick Tower that they rent out downtown.
I remember.
And yeah, so Lockwood, we were pretty tight. And actually, he sold me the best car I ever had for $292. He hooked me up.
Nice.
He went crazy on this car trying to fix every single thing that was broken. And after putting like $4,000 into it, he gave up and just like gave it to me for like $300. And then it like worked fine for like until it just died. It was perfect.
I mean, that's a cheap price to pay for a car. And
yeah, dude, he just hooked it up. He's good. He was a cool guy, man. I don't even remember the last time I saw him was, and it's really sad. Well, it's that Dave from Idle Kids was his really good friend who also used to run the place. And Dave committed. He shot himself, and then there was something that really messed Jason up because it was Jason's boy, dude. And like Jason, like he went on for like 5 years. He was really depressed, and then he ended up moving to Chicago, and then I guess he finished himself. And then, but what was crazy, Maximum Rock and Roll ran a giant like half-page thing, like an obituary. That was crazy. Maximum Rock and Roll like immortalized Jason like to the whole punk community out of nowhere, like little Jason Lockwood. It was crazy.
Well, yeah, because he had Hell City Records, and they were putting out a bunch of different bands. It wasn't just Whiskey Diaries. It was all types of different music. And
yeah, they did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of shows with them back in the day, even at when we had the New Way Bar on Ferndale. I don't even know if the place is there anymore.
Yeah,
but
it is.
If it is, it's there because I helped turn it to kind of what it was once upon a time when they threw a lot of shows. We built a new stage there and got everything in, and that was a good run. But yeah, the Whiskey Diaries played there a bunch of times. And that was Jason's band, of course, if nobody knows, and they're on YouTube still. They're really cool stuff. But
yeah, and that's wild because our whole lives, especially when you and I first met, all that mattered, at least to me, and I can attest to you as well, like just going to shows and music, and that's been my life since I started my band in 2001. Going to shows, music, going to shows, music. Then all of a sudden COVID happens, and now that's ripped from everybody. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the depressing thing we're in, because it's like not only are we not really being told forthright like about what the virus is and what it does, and every time we look at the virus, we hear another news story with another freakish aspect of it, but rarely do a lot of people put all the things together. But basically, our music world has been shut down for a long time here until this thing's under wraps. And maybe a vaccine will come. But things are changed. But at one instance, it's like you cancel all the sports teams at the same time. You cancel all the schools at the same time. You cancel rock and roll at the same time. You cancel everything at the same time. And then our society limps forward. And the thing is, eventually people are going to get fed up with it and do like house shows, but those are going to be ultra illegal because you can't have a bunch of people. Like eventually someone's going to try, and then you're going to hear about it on the news. And where you're going to have like a bunch, like 30 punk rock kids arrested and wherever, probably California somewhere, having a house party. In violation of the whatever, and that won't happen immediately, but eventually, like it's going to be like that because to get this problem under control, and again, this is larger debate about how this virus works, what it is, etc., and we'll talk about that more later. But yeah, everything's been shut down. But so anyway, on the other flip side, people are writing great music everywhere, and if you find that a lot of people that do have connections and are good musicians have been putting stuff out, they know buddies that have cheap recording studios and stuff. So people are doing tons and tons of albums like at home and in the studio, and they have more time, obviously. So we're getting a wave of albums that are coming out right now that are all stuff that a lot of it was written in the past, 8 months or so. So actually there's a ton of good music coming out, and it's all going to be digital. In the future, there's going to be tons and tons of people putting out studio albums or self-made, laptop works, and that's probably what I'm going to have to do with my next grind band. Vulture Locust, but that's fine. I was like the guy from the band that wrote everything anyway, and it was always been me and whatever drummer I wanted to work with or whatever. And the last incarnation of that kind of ended at the beginning of 2015. And like I said, it's ripe. I really want to do it. I've got tons of material, and I got one last great heavy metal album in me that I hope I survive the apocalypse and get through. Also, one last great punk rock album. And one last truly great like grind album, as opposed to like just the full extreme metal thing. So I'm looking forward to being that guy that we were like in our early 20s again. It's like you go on a mission, you have a degree of success, because I left Detroit. I ran away on like a Greyhound in 2006, and I declared that I was going to live this book, and I was going to travel around, be a journalist guy, because I got a bunch of gigs writing for some really big national magazines. So I basically went on the road, and I wrote a book called Big Shiny Prison, where I interviewed tons of bands and do the sort of Kerouac, Hunter Thompson travel book thing, which you guys appear in. And yeah, I've already kind of been there and done that, and losing my train of thought. Where were we? What were we going on next?
But I feel that because back when you and I met, it was we just had these big dreams about what we wanted to do, and essentially we did that shit. Like
that's what I was getting at. We really got, both you and I, we kind of, even as like little DIY independent guys, I mean, we both went out into the world, be like, okay, we're inspired by punk rock, heavy metal, and rock and roll, and we're gonna do our own take on it, and we're gonna just stay real to ourselves and do it DIY, and if we get some help along the way, whatever. And neither of us ever had some huge giant record label putting out shit, but it didn't matter because we did it ourselves. And
it got done no matter what, because we're like, we're like, this is what we do, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna find a way. So
yeah, I mean, thinking about it, I was trying to do a count, but I think I've done 13 studio records, just DIY, with all the different projects I've done. And the book I just put out on Film Cinema is book number 7 of a long history of that. And actually, if anybody out there, if you go to the library and you live in a larger city or a big university, they'll probably have one of my books on your shelf, because my publishing company sent stuff all over the place. So just look for it. And also, if you have a local witchcraft store, there's a chance that I might be in the bookshelf. Seriously, I sent promo copies to every single witchcraft and occult store that's English speaking world. So I'm quietly invading the magical occult territory as well, but in good reason. And I want to teach the tarot. I'll just put it like that.
So this is my question, Bartek, Mr. Bartek, aka Coach Snake. I remember hearing stories that you would tell me about 1999 when Y2K was happening, and how you were like, this is the end, And so what I want to know is, what was your train of thought when the shutdowns first started? I was on tour when it first started, and I got real scared because I had no idea. I knew the virus existed, but I had no idea at what level it would disrupt our lives. And I just explain to me where you were and your thought process on all of it.
Well, as far as 99 and Y2K were concerned, I was concerned about things going haywire or whatnot. My main concern was things like if a possibility of a nuclear power plant could melt down, or massive failures and everything. And a lot of this has to do with an intuition thing, and one could say visions and dreams of a possible future. And I always has had eerie premonitions of various things happening. And funny enough, 9/11, 2001, I swear, just all these eerie sort of dreamy visions and whatnot, it all kind of happened. And there was a part of me that said whatever, and I could sound like a crackpot for that, but so that was a little bit of just this ominous feeling I had towards Y2K. And it was more like the things that happened in my personal life. There was someone really close to me where something went horribly wrong. So sometimes when that happens with people who are close, there's a weird kind of premonition with the person, and then it's almost like deja vu. So it's sort of I felt like an apocalypse coming on, and I didn't know if it was the situation or if it was this personal thing. So it's strange like that. So, but I wanted to comment about the situation we're in now, where I remember on September 11th and the day after, there was clear blue skies and there was no planes in the sky. And it felt like everybody was awake. It felt like there was electricity in the air, almost before a thunderstorm kind of. But there was clear blue skies. So it was this crazy, it felt this certain energy. But over time, it's people stopped questioning those events, stopped questioning what was going to happen next. It went back with the screenplay and started watching TV and drinking beer again and just went about their ways. And it's really crazy that once COVID happened, boom, we went back to those blue skies and that feeling of electricity. And then after a certain point, it became just normal. And now, we see there's no pollution coming at us like there was before, at least. And I'm seeing the plants are I've never seen plant life this healthy ever. And even the dying leaves falling off the tree are 3 times as moist and lifelike than anything I remembered. I remembered, especially as a little kid in the 1980s, things looking brighter and less polluted and stuff. And I didn't know if it was just my memories, but now that things have cleared up, it's strange. And I feel like I'm functioning better because I know there's more oxygen and less pollution. And if the trees are that healthy and all this, obviously more oxygen is being put out. So it's sort of like, it's weird. I feel like this situation has kind of like de-aged me, but it's also moved me forward a lot because I don't know, the world I'm living in, it isn't necessarily the world that everybody else is living in, because this situation has been like a disaster movie for everybody. Everybody has their own personal disaster movie, and everybody's experience has been a little bit different. So what I've been trying to do, obviously, is try to think across the board, the different segments of society, like how this is impacting them. What does it mean to like the single home, stay-at-home mom? What does it mean to the parental unit? What does it mean to couples about to get divorced? What does it mean to like this or the garbage man or whatever? So I've tried to look at all these little microcosms to understand the larger macrocosm and where our society is at. And, this is a cliffhanger in the disaster movie because as we're doing this right now, Trump has been admitted to the military hospital for having COVID, and there's a breakout at the White House, and it's been like 7 people so far. So this is like one of the biggest cliffhangers of the whole saga.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen next. And there's a lot of options that I could speculate on, but it's like that's another like 40 minutes of this program.
What do you think? Now, what do you think if Trump gets a mild case of it and then he just tells everyone, I told you it was no big deal. I told you you don't have to wear a mask. It's just a cold. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that is one possibility?
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. It's either it's going to wreck him. Okay, if he goes, that's a whole nother bar park. Okay, but if it wrecks him and he comes back from it, he's going to be a paranoid nut of mandatory quarantines, and he's going to see the invisible enemy everywhere. And then the other version is like he has low level asymptomatic kind. And it's no big deal, like you said, and that's going to bolster more people to be stupid and not wear masks and cause him to win the debate, possibly like the larger national debate by pushing everybody out of the way. And again, there's a lot of ways, but it's not looking good for him because he was having trouble breathing. And you have to remember, this is like a 58-day infection. And the thing that people have to know, and this is going to be really depressing if you're hearing this for the first time. See, the way a virus works is that the virus does things to you, and then the disease you get or the sickness you get is a reflection of that at a molecular level, like whatever they're programmed to do. See, the coronavirus, this thing is different, and the reason they think it's from a laboratory because it doesn't work like other viruses do. It rewrites our DNA. That's why it's doing a different disease to every single person, because it's infecting everyone differently.
Wow.
It kind of comes on the same, but it goes for the RNA strand within of the individual. Because DNA strands are like a double helix. That's where all our genetic information is stored. RNA is like another form. It's like a subform of DNA that does the same function, and it works for us in different ways. And I'm not the ultimate scientist on this, but basically this thing is entering our body, randomly rewriting parts of our genetic code, and then our bodies are going haywire in different ways, responding to that. And it seems to go for the weakest organ of the body. It seems to target. That's why some people have seizures, some people have strokes, some people have heart attacks, some people they have the COVID, the on the ventilator, like the known thing. And that's the thing is like most of the things that are thought of as coronavirus deaths that are obvious. They thought originally it was just the ventilator situation, but it was killing people for it does what Kaczkowski disease did in children, where it just basically ruptures the veins, and just rips open your arteries and kills you. And in little kids in the 80s, the Kaczkowski disease went around, and it would just fry their blood vessels in their brains and slightly retard them or kill them. And so this COVID is going off and just rupturing blood vessels randomly and killing some people. This is why there's lots of stories of people being found walking around gone crazy, basically, on the street. And I've been wandering the streets of Portland ever since the beginning of this thing, and I've been seeing all sorts of weird behavior of people that look like they aren't meth heads but acting like meth heads, they're completely gone, and they're dressed nice and they're wandering around. They're not making any sense. They seem strangely fried, and then I'll see ambulances pick them up and take them away somewhere, and it's kind of a creepy extra layer to this whole thing. So again, I'm not paranoid. This thing's happening. If you Google the information, it's there.
Because it's especially in Long Beach where I live, there's a huge homeless population, houseless population, and it's hard for me to tell if if it's getting more desperate, because the vibe in the air is that of desperation. We're still on lockdown here in California, and like I'm still unemployed, my girlfriend's still unemployed, and there's just this air of desperation, and like it seems like we go on walks every night now because I did the social media cleanse, so we're doing this thing where we're going on walks, trying to be present in the moment. But there's everywhere you look, there's just desperation. I saw a man in the street the other day screaming at 3 cops. It was a houseless man just being like, "Shoot me, fucking kill me," and it was and it's hard for me to know because I just started wandering the streets because when COVID first happened, I was just in my bunker. I was afraid. We only went to the grocery store and back here to the apartment. But now that we're doing all this walking, there's just this level of desperation and not really panic with normal people, but it seems like the houseless, like their intuition, it seems like they're tapped into.
They know what's happening.
It seems like,
and they see it.
It seems like there's more of a pandemonium with them than it is with the idiots that are riding around on scooters with no masks on. It's a strange time. I don't really know how to put my finger on it or what to say about it.
Well, here's why I understand exactly what you're saying. And the thing is, the homeless people and the people who are desperate, they're the ones living in the true reality of this. And then there's a bunch, it's like haves and have-nots. Okay, the haves, they're still on unemployment. They're still in their houses, which are guaranteed not to be more like evicted. So they're like living this little bubble of self-denial while everything else rots away. And all those people, they got money stashed away. But they're, the haves are slowly becoming the have-nots. And as more people pour into the street, that's the situation. But the homeless are the ones that see what's happening. You got to talk about like all the bathrooms have been closed. People would used to be homeless, so they'd go to Starbucks and wash themselves up in the bathroom, or the gas station, or the library, or wherever else. There's no open running water sources for people all over the place.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I don't know your situation, California, but I tell you, like whatever water fountains are here in Portland are going to be shut down soon because it gets cold, and if you have a run in, it breaks the pipes. That's why they shut it off in the middle of the winter. But that's going to wipe out like all the water supply. Basically for a lot of people. Basically like the world basically already ended and they don't know how to tell us, and it's slowly just crumbling. So we have this fake safety net where, nobody can get evicted and you can't get in trouble and CDC, blah, blah, blah. And we've pushed this like eviction moratorium all the way to March 2021. We played kick the butt because the governor of Oregon is not stupid. And she understands a lot of what's going on. And she knows that just if everything crumbles, these are the things that are crumble. It's like the broken windows theory. As long as the cops protect the windows and kids aren't smashing out the windows, it gives the illusion of safety. So it's expanded into a larger thing. It's not just like keep the windows in place anymore. Now it's like, as long as we keep them in their homes. So what I'm seeing everywhere is the people that do have money, everybody bought a camper or an RV or something like that. The cops aren't towing people anymore because they don't have the resources. They're wasting all the resources chasing around protesters like an army. And like everything's been left. Now all the haves that have money in their places, they're doing all these frantic calling because the first thing they have to pick on and get rid of are like the crazy homeless people there's like 850 homeless like encampments now, like with like 30, 40 people with tents. And like there's roads that kind of on the outskirts of Portland where people with RVs and stuff, the cops must have said, just keep going there. Like it's a rescue colony. So they're all lined up. It's like miles and miles of people living in trailers up and down kind of the back roads, kind of like by the airport. You know what I mean? Where like the National Guard places and the jail cells down the street, they're just making everybody park around the jail and the fucking National Guard.
Yeah. And that's how it is out here too in California. It's just rampant, and it seems like it's getting worse. There's a lake. My girlfriend used to walk around this lake in Echo Park, which is kind of a Silver Lake. Echo Park is kind of like a hipster. It's pretty gentrified. But pretty much, I don't know who gave the houses like the thumbs up, but the whole lake is a homeless encampment, right? There's like a walking path around this. It's a pretty big lake. It's probably like a good 3/4 of a mile around, like almost like when you're running track or something. And
they probably just took it. I used to live in Echo Park actually once upon a time for a very short while in 2007. And that was I was only there for about like 2 months and I could have stayed. I was with this girl and I just, kept going. She was a nice girl, but anyway, so I lived there for a bit, but like the homeless population was there always. My guess is they probably just stormed in and took it, because now it's like the land where people know that like you can just kind of take places now. That's why all the new homeless encampments, they're just more daring than they used to be, because it used to be the cops would show up and chase you off or whatever. So we're talking about like, rotundas with car traffic. People are like straight up like just setting themselves up. So anyway, we're approaching, the rains will start about mid-November, but we're approaching flu season now, and flu season is going to be freakish because nobody's going to know if it's COVID or not. And flu pops up and is more obvious than most of the coronavirus. Coronavirus, the thing, we got lucky here in Oregon because when it first started moving in our population, there were two main strands. One was ultra lethal and one was more of an asymptomatic kind. And that was like the start in Wuhan, and that was coming out there in like January, February, December. Okay, so it's ultra infectious. So like supposedly one person can infect 59,000. Okay, a regular cold, that like one person can infect like 1.3 other people. So we're talking about like something like way more contagious than the regular flu that we all know, like don't touch anything. It's so you're talking about if one person can infect like 59,000 people by just standing within fucking 14 feet of them and breathing the same air, and the shit, like this thing just moved through our population so fast that it was like John Carpenter's The Thing. It was just like boom, it was everywhere at the same time. So the thing is, we got rolled over by the lesser version, okay? So the more destructive strain is what somehow got to Italy and somehow got to certain countries that got ravaged by this early on. So the thing, we got lucky. So the Oregon's being held in place because we have the lowest version of this circulating amongst us. That's why it's such a pacified population. Now, like the protests you see on TV, it's mostly the same 4 blocks, and it's a movie set, and every once in a while, a bunch of protesters will march through the city from that location around, and you'll see all this like footage and stuff. But it's mostly the same 5 or 6 blocks that it's always been for every single protest, which is like in front of the courthouse where the Occupy parks are. Because this is just
right, and this is ever since the George Floyd thing happened. Is when the protests are. So it's been over 100 days, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's something. We're at like day 120 something, I think.
Okay.
So, but the thing is, it's just a continuation of everything that's been happening here, and it just finally reached a different level of critical mass because of the situation. The George Floyd protests reached fever pitch because people needed a reason to do something, especially like right about that moment in time. That was like April 30th, I think, or early May. What was the date of Floyd? It was actually April 15th is the first time that the Yahoos in Michigan went and encircled the governor's place, all the MAGA Proud Boy types.
And George Floyd happened like shortly after that.
Yeah, it was. So like basically, Floyd was just the thing that set everything off, because I think the whole nation, like they had been told to stay home for a certain amount of time, and we finally kind of got everything done that we were doing, and now we kind of watched everything that we wanted to see on Netflix and started checking our watches and being like, okay, what next? And then boom, that happened, and all the sporting events were ended. We've never had that silence before with the entire youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing to focus. So protesting becomes a new sport. What's the number one thing that everybody wants to do that they've never had the opportunity is destroy systematic racism. Everybody said, yeah, I can get behind that. And they took all that energy of not knowing what to do with the COVID world. It just, boom, it gave everybody a reason, and all hooked together. And the cops played into it, and then Twitter played into it, and everything kept escalating from there. So everything that's going on, it was all going to go off if the situation presented itself with where people would have unemployment or no unemployment and were desperate enough. B, they had something to get behind. C, you have national attention on everything. D, it becomes to get critical mass, it has to be a whole nationwide, worldwide movement, and people are in support of the Black Lives Matter protesters all over the world. You know what I mean? And so you go if you got anything to say.
No, I was just saying, I was agreeing with you. Yeah, it was a worldwide thing. It sparked worldwide protests. And
okay, yeah, but Black Lives Matter. I've been doing stuff, different protests. That's been going on here, I think, since 2016, 2015. Basically, it was like Occupy. And then when Occupy kind of got torn down by the cops, people realized there was a larger community of people together. And everybody like learned all sorts of new ways of community work, and it led to another project to another project. And Hands Up, Don't Shoot was one of the big ones because cops hated it. So they had all the same sort of protesters that would show up, and they'd have Hands Up, Don't Shoot. And that slowly, all those people rolled into Black Lives Matter, which was a more concise message. And I was, of course, getting chased around by riot cops in the streets all kinds of times before this. See, we're in a situation where, it's a pandemic out there. I don't feel safe being around people. So basically, I'm on the sidelines. I'm helping people, all kinds of people in the community. I'm running around behind the scenes, just staying out of trouble. But I got my eyes on everything, and I'm doing everything I can to help. The main mission that I'm working on with some people is we have drop-off locations where people drop off tents, tarps, sleeping bags, super heavy sweaters, stuff like that. And I'm going to be personally walking around during winter giving them to homeless people all over the place, because that's when people freeze to death in the streets. My job, my mission is to hook up every single desperate person out there as much as I can, and tent, tarp, and sleeping bag. And we're working on that with multiple people, and we've got a bunch of like really big vehicles that we're storing stuff in. So we have like random little spots that we can keep shit at. That's just, so that's it. I'm staying away from madness and trying to do what is most important. And the desperate people living on the side of the street digging through the trash right now, they need the help. And but the thing is, like I say the protests, a lot of the people, when you hit critical mass, that's when all the rookies come in. That's when a lot of young kids that have never been to a protest come before. That's when you have angry 19-year-olds throwing bricks at bank windows and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like when you hit critical mass, all this stuff happens. But again, it's sick to watch, people crying for bank windows, but they don't cry for the guy who was choked to death on the street. He was executed by cops. And the thing is, like, it's important that Black Lives Matter became such a thing and got into the vernacular of the United States and our whole civilization here, because now that it's so widespread, anytime a cop does something stupid or something violent or abuses their power or kills a guy who's black, everybody knows and connects it to the same central thing. Yeah. And the cops know that it's an overblown thing. So the cops that are doing it know they're feeding into it. The cops that are like, they're not just waving all lives matter flags, because all lives matter is such a lazy F the Negroes sort of like response. It's got that like subtext. It's like
absolutely.
They don't get it. If they don't understand why that's offensive, they don't get the problem. They're part of the problem. And if they know what they're saying, it's just like F you. Well, so
I just think anyway, they're living in just a privileged white person bubble. If you can say all lives matter and truly believe it, you just don't. You're just dense. This is my question about the rookies and what you're saying, because you were involved in the Occupy movement, and that was 2012 and whatnot. And so you say you've been boots to the ground this whole time, but since this whole movement hit critical mass, and like you said, all the rookies came in, do you think it almost like took away, like devalued the movement just because there's a bunch of what is your opinion on the because really I feel like the right has taken these rookies and used that narrative to pretty much be like, vote for Trump or else or they're going to come burn your house in the suburbs down. And so what is your opinion? Because you're definitely not a rookie. You've been involved in this stuff since Occupy, and Occupy was a way smaller movement. So how do you teach these rookies that, hey, this isn't the way you do things? Like, you're ruining this shit.
Well, that's the problem with critical mass. It's like everybody's their own person, because you got to think how many cops are infiltrators who are agitating things. I mean, we over and over and over, cops are caught on camera planting brick pallets. They smash out windows. They set cars on fire. They put fake decoy cop cars to smash them up themselves. There's all that going on, but there are legitimately just like crazy kids. But again, the movement comes as a result of all this stuff. You know what I mean? So when it's finally reached a point where people are angry enough, that's who shows up a lot of times.
Yeah.
But again, it's just all part of things. So the problem is, again, you get the importance of the message often gets lost in that rhetoric of, oh, the bad people are going to think. But the thing is, the whole situation, like Black Lives Matter hasn't been perfectly represented in the right-wing media, and there's no way that the TIFA has been properly represented, and the history of that, or how that's happening, or how it got in that position. Basically, Trump and all those people, they wandered into a situation they didn't understand, jumped behind the Proud Boys without understanding who they were, and not even understanding who Antifa was or any of this stuff. And they basically he just kind of jumped into the middle of the game and made everything his chess piece. But what's interesting is, Trump just got sent out to the military hospital, and right before that, he publicly disowned the Proud Boys and turned on them and called them white supremacists. So it's really funny that, like, on his way out, theoretically, it could be the end of him. He's like F you to those people, and then they take him away to the hospital, and then what if he just vanishes after that? Then we're stuck with two organizations. Now you got, like, the Tifa and you've got the Proud Boys, and both of them are going to end up, in trouble by the, Homeland Snoops and looked at a certain way. So it's like, you just created, like, this absurd problem. But again, like, all these things that have led us to this point, it's like, when you look at Trump's career, all this has happened. It's really like a disaster movie all the way up to now. And, like, everything he's done, it's constantly like, how can this top itself? It's like that Aristocrats joke. You know what I mean? Like, how far can we take this shit? And every single day you're like, I can't believe that they pushed it to this new level of madness. To the point where now we're where we're at, where the entire White House is being wiped out by a killer plague, and they're still not wearing masks. They're all being taken away to thing, and they're still not wearing masks.
It's wild.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Now, when you and I used to talk Acropolis, end of days type thing, it always was kind of a joke. Now, did you ever? There's a part of me when I was a little kid on HBO, there was like a Nostradamus special, and I remember I started crying. I was a little kid in the basement watching this Nostradamus special. I went up to my mom and I said, I don't want us all to die. And she's like, honey, no one's going to die. This was in the 80s, okay? And then ever since then, and that's what I wrote in the song, Welcome to the Acropolis, I've been kind of skeptical as to, like, is our generation going to be the generation that witnesses the end? In your opinion, do you feel like we're going to witness the end, or is this just a hiccup? What do you think?
Well, our entire world has changed. So the world we were living in ended, even though we're still alive. We're like ghosts that have been transferred to a new reality. And the whole world isn't coming back, and the way that we grew up isn't coming back. But the thing is, it's either you adapt or you evolve or whatever. So we're in a period of forced evolution. And that's what horror movies are about. It's like forced transformation. You know what I mean? You could just be caked in blood and walking away all cut up, but you killed a bunch of demons and changed you forever. But it's about transformation. So getting back to Nostradamus, as you remember, I had a band in Detroit called AKA Mabus. And Mabus was the name of Nostradamus's fourth and final Antichrist. And the joke was that my band was the fourth and final Antichrist. And that's why I made this goofy, like, propaganda, religion, like Church of Subgenius Liebach that came with it. But people didn't really get the joke, and they thought I was just some weird dude. Like, they didn't know what the fuck. So anyway, that all played into it. I wrote about kind of things I thought would happen. So here's the thing, like, projecting in advance, like our age, we grew up watching Romero movies before, Walking Dead and all that. So anybody that liked that stuff, we always thought, like, well, if it was really a zombie apocalypse, what if The Stand really happened? What if the movie? And then you kind of think in the back of your head, like, oh, these are different strategies I employ, or this was how it would go. And then you watch different plague movies, and that gives you an idea of, like, here's how, the government would handle this or whatever. But the thing is, you watch it play out here in real life, okay? And what's amazing to me is, like, everything that I pretty much assumed would happen has happened. It's just played out in a real sloppy timeline that's really difficult to see when or what would happen, but it's all essentially happened. And what's freakish to me is that the thing that I didn't bet on was that I thought people would panic and not just keep going to work and pretending nothing was wrong. Because it's sort of like the governor, like, we're a bunch of little kids in the kitchen, and then the Oregon governor comes in and goes, kids, don't touch those cookies on the thing. And there was a big glass cookie jar full of shit. She's like, don't touch those, they're poison, you'll all die if you touch them. And then she vanishes, and there's no adults, and it's just kids in this kitchen for months looking at the cookie jar. And then eventually you start eating the cookies and just pretend that never happened. But the thing is, like, if someone runs in the room screaming on fire and says there's a killer virus, learn what's going on, whatever, this is your only warning, and then just vanishes, and everybody just kind of went along, like, pretended like it never happened. And they're all just, it's cuckoo. So the thing I want to say about this is people will pay attention to know, like, okay, But back to back to your central point about projecting. Like I said, I've had a lot of ideas and a lot of things I thought would play out have played out. What's interesting is when I did the band Vulture Locust, we're like the conspiracy grindcore band, but it was always tongue in cheek, like Dead Kennedys. When they have the montage of all the stuff going on, and like it's real zany, and I would do it like Gel Bath for sort of like sarcasm, even though it was like a brutal grindcore, you know. And if you read the lyrics, you'll see the whole thing. So we did every conspiracy known to man back in like 2014, 2015. But the drummer always said, "I don't believe in any of this shit." He's like, I think 9/11 happened like they said it did. Fucking, there's no such thing as chemtrails. There's no FEMA black coffins, and there's no like all the stuff. He's like, it's all bullshit. He's like, if you want to do a real album about real conspiracy, we're gonna do an album about like something like if something like SARS got out. And he's like, here's what would happen. Everybody would freak the fuck out. And he's like, here's what SARS is. And he's like, that's your conspiracy. That's some shit that could really happen, dude. That's supposed to be our second album. And then the band broke up. That dude, he had drinking problems and whatnot, and various other problems, and he kind of went his own way. And But that was it. Like, we're the conspiracy grindcore band. Everything you're saying is bullshit. If something got SARS, like, that's our next album. So I started writing ideas about like a pandemic, evil dystopia where some killer virus going around. And then it just was. And then I left the project because I was like, I don't want to do this album right now. But now we're living in the ultimate conspiracy of Vulture Locust, where I am forced to write the album about the whatever, at least on my computer.
Yeah.
So anybody who's watching, you are now in Vulture Locust's ultimate conspiracy. And our album is called Command Presence. If you just Google it, you'll find it, free download, wave, high version on YouTube and all such things. Blah, blah.
So did you think back in 01, 02, 03? I mean, could you, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. It almost was a premonition of your old drummer that this was going to happen. Like this,
yeah,
it was a concept album that never happened, but then it happened in real life.
Yeah, and now I'm finishing it in real life, like In the Mouth of Badness. I'm John Trent, something like that. And the thing is, and I always had the book I wrote that I always had up my sleeve. It's called To Live and Die in Zug Island. It came out in print from Anami Press on October 8th, 2019, last year. And you can find that if you just Google it as well. But that was the book I wrote in 2004 when we were hanging out a lot in those early days. And I just sat on it and edited it every year, made it better and better, and just waited for the right moment. And I always said, I bet the day that I finally put this out, it's going to be the apocalypse. And then the second I sent out the last promo copy ever, it was like the day before I checked my phone and I saw LeBron James died in the helicopter crash, right?
That
LeBron
was Kobe Bryant.
Oh, it was Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Whatever, same guy. So anyway, Kobe Bryant. I don't care about basketball.
Same guy.
Anyway, Unfortunately, Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash, and I was like, oh shit, Kobe's dead. And then I looked at it said in the health and section, oh, China is quarantining Wuhan. And I went, oh, what's this? And I started poking around at it. I'm like, what does it do? How infectious is it? Where did it go? All these, like 5 million people just left for the Lunar New Year's all over the world. And then like, I knew at that moment, I'm like, this whole thing is going to go bonkers. And I had no idea what was coming, but I saw it. And I just remember I looked at the phone and then I looked up and I was no longer living in the world of 2019. I was now living in this world. And the thing is, like, where most people are today, I'd say at this moment, that's where I was then. So it's sort of, I'm way ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. And I've been cut off from society because I said, everybody's movie has been different. Everybody's convinced them of different things about this movie set. But I clearly what the movie set is. And what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is always rubber gloves the old ladies use when they clean the dishes in your sink. That's what you want anytime you touch anything in public. And anything you buy, spray it with bleach water. That's what I've been doing the whole time. I've had no physical contact with anybody since March, which kind of sucks. But hey, guess what? That's just what's up. My situation, I'm oddly protected. And the thing is, like, of all the places in the world I could be spit out, being in my little corner of Portland in Oregon, this quiet little corner, I feel very safe here, and I'm very lucky to be here. And I realize how horrible the situation is for other people. So no matter the sad things that happen to me, if you're like me or like Neil here, and you actually have a place to be inside, and you're not about to starve to death, just feel very lucky, and don't feel depressed because whatever, the relationship didn't work out because the plague happened, or whatever. Just be happy that you're not screwed. So
you're erring on the side of extreme caution, some would say.
Okay, here's the deal. The vitamin or the virus attacks specifically people with vitamin D deficiencies. The death rate is through the roof. I'm vitamin D deficiency. So basically, to be honest, if the wrong person walks up and breathes on me, that's like giving me airborne AIDS. It will give me like full-blown AIDS and pneumonia at the same time. So I have to be John Travolta and Boy in the Plastic Bubble with makeshift fucking yellow gloves, and while everybody's walking around with a mask trying to kill me outside with this shit. So I mean, somehow I'm still alive.
How do you know?
The thing is, I had Zika before. I had West Nile. I survived that. I survived the swine flu. So the chances are, like, this thing is so infectious. Probably tons and tons of people had this early on and didn't even know. And I probably was one of them. And then that's another thing, I had to stay away from people because I knew that, like, if I was one of these people, like, I don't want to go to the hospital to get tested because I'd get it because I'd be around. It's like a zombie movie. You get a zombie bite, you don't go to the fucking hospital because that's where all the zombie people are. So if you're sick, you go there with COVID, you know what I mean? So I was like, the only way to be sure is to completely avoid all people, don't touch anything, only wear gloves, stay fucking away from everybody for their own safety and mine for 58 days because the infection lasts 58 days, okay? At that entire, you can kill anybody with the shit for 58 days straight. So I hid like fucking Anne Frank under fucking floorboards, like Newt from in Aliens, in my little hidden thing away from everyone. And I made it through somehow. And I've just been on the sidelines, like watching everything going down. And it's crazy because, again, microcosm. The little area I'm in, it's a nice area. I walk up and down from this little art college to like this band space to like a gas station and a 7-Eleven and a weed store. And as time goes by, all the windows have been broken out. Everybody's been robbed. There's homeless people everywhere. All sorts of weird shit. It's like every single day, it slowly turns into like Bad Dudes video game, tick, 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 like the background when you get like something like that. And then the most liberal arts college in Portland, the dude is like, unless you have a badge or you go to school, you got to stay off the property or they'll arrest you. That's the thing. All the colleges everywhere, the homeless people used to hang out at colleges because they'd be able to wash up in the thing or hang out on this, whatever. They're all being kicked out. All the libraries are closed. The homeless shelters. Here's another thing. I want people to understand. Trump tried to kill all the homeless. Okay, so when FEMA did all their shit and they had their original homeless people rescue station, you want to get off the street. The National Guard and FEMA came in, made a bunch of little shelter sort of things to protect the homeless, and they started bringing them into convention centers. Tic-tac-toe. They set it up with little masking tape on the floor, 6-foot cubes. They know that 6 feet is too close to put. So they made all the homeless people stand in single file line too close, pushed them in, made them all sleep in tic-tac-toe things, and then dumped them back off on the street, trying to fucking kill everybody. They know they're going to kill everybody if they do that. And Trump, so I think 100 years from now, people don't realize that happened. And 100 years from now, that's what people are going to cry about it. I saw a bunch of German children at the German Museum in Berlin, and it was when they took them on a field trip to finally explain who the Nazis were and what they did. And they took them to a big model of a fucking gas chamber, and they had all these little tiny clay-made Jewish people going in, and they graphically detailed this is what's up, and all the kids crying and weeping. And I saw it in person, and I know that in 100 years they're going to show about Donald Trump trying to kill all homeless people and what he did and all the shit he's done behind the scenes, and people are going to fucking weep. He's going to be cursed in his grave for all American society. And it doesn't matter if he dies of coronavirus, because if you were a prick in life, it doesn't change who you were in life. You're going to be an asshole condemned to fucking all history. Yeah, you're going to be remembered. So let's go back to your vitamin D deficiency. How did you become aware of this? And you were saying you had all of those other diseases. Is that linked to your deficiency? No. The thing is, it's general with Irish people. They have a thing. It runs in my family, my mom, but Irish people in general, Scottish people. There's a lot of vitamin D deficiency because one reason or another, fairer people in that region, less sunlight, some shit that works with that. But basically, I can take supplements that are fine. The thing is, I found out because we have public health care, Oregon health care. It's like the Medicaid for all Oregon. Anybody can get on it if they make under. So I'm on that, and I got a physical, and they did a blood test, and they're like, dude, your shit's low. And then they prescribed me this ultra booster for free through the state. But I haven't gone back to a doctor since all this started because I don't want to go anywhere near a hospital. And it's this whole thing where they don't want to see patients unless it's desperate. So anyway, I think that's one of the main reasons that if I did get this virus and survived, it's because I was taking this ultra booster the whole time. You know what I mean? And it's just a thing, but that's the information that I'm getting from online and from various sources, is that people with vitamin D deficiencies, it's just clobbering them. But again, it's totally random. Sometimes people have some sort of built-in immunity to this disease where it doesn't kill them. It seems like 20% of the people, it doesn't mess them up. Another thing I want you to know, and other people out there, is the way this virus works. Okay, it's ultra infectious, 58 days, blah, blah, blah. What, you never heal from it. You don't get the antibodies last only about 3 months, and then you can become reinfected again. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So the thing is, yeah, you can get reinfected again. So it's like no matter what, you keep putting yourself out there. The thing is, people in the studies, it's eating their brain. Like when they do CAT scans, it looks like they've been on meth or smoking crack for 15 years straight. So just like how the Romans went crazy drinking lead pipe, fucking rusted, lead pipes, and it drove them insane from their water supply, same fucking thing, okay? This thing's going to keep whipping around until it's fucking like ate everybody's brains. So the only way to really survive is just lay low, and the idiots are going to, eventually people are going to see what's going on. And another thing, a depressing thing, is imagine what this is doing to fetuses. If it's changing our DNA, imagine the crop of babies that are about to be born. You know what I mean? Like, what are the statistics of miscarriages and stillborns and shit like that? Are we going to start having like freak sideshow children being born everywhere, or Down syndrome children, or whatever? You know what I mean? And there's other studies, they find out that kids don't really die from COVID. That's not true, okay? Another thing, kids, because they have faster metabolisms and shit, they have 100 times the viral load that adults do. So that basically means children are super spreaders who are lethal to parents. If that means that they have 100 times the viral load of this ultra lethal disease more than an adult does, like putting kids in a fucking thing. And the thing, cats carry it and dogs carry it, but they're not telling us if dogs or cats can communicate to other people. But they know that cats are ultra infectious to each other. So there's this also thing, if you look at Russia, shortly into this, Vladimir Putin dropped everything and had his military start killing all the stray cats and dogs everywhere. Like fucking, that's the number one thing. They're locked down all their cities. They're like, we got to kill all the strays, kill all of them. So that's the thing. That's my assumption, is that cats would therefore infect people. So you're talking about like bubonic plague and rats. I don't know if cats can be our pets anymore. And if that's true, it's going to be some fucking phase shit where it's like you get to keep the cat or the dog you have, but they have to stay indoors and be domesticated with licenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. Okay. And then you're talking about like John Wick. Okay. Then you're talking about MAGA plus John Wick and the pandemic apocalypse and the government coming to take my dog. What the fuck happens then? It's going to get fucking crazy. And so the thing is, we're at a point where it's like our money isn't worth anything. The Federal Reserve bought every single sector of our country. They bought all the junk bonds market. They bought fucking everything you can look. Just look into it. Now we're like $27 trillion in federal debt. And our money, basically every single country, our money is like Germany after World War I. It's not worth anything anymore. It's all gone bankrupt. But nobody's willing to like say that. Like all the superpowers are busy handling their own shit, and it's going to lead us into a fucking situation where we have no choice but to all at the same time. We're going to have to. There has to be a coordinated thing, like the UN finally stepping up. Guys, we have to all say we're broke at the same time so we can deal with this, or something like that. Because it's not going to be at once. China's not going to say, "Oh yeah, we're completely broke." US isn't going to say, "Oh yeah, we're completely broke." So basically, like eventually, like. Our money is going to be worthless bullshit. And it's about barter time. It's about food. Like if you have like $4,000 in the bank right now, go buy $4,000 worth of fucking canned food and bury it places or hide it in your house. Like that's what you should be doing right now. Fuck. Like I'm going to go to college or this. Yeah, I'm going to go work at McDonald's for $10 an hour in the middle of this shit. Like you can't touch money either. Okay, that's the thing. Can't touch dollar bills. It lives on dollar bills for about 3 to 4 days. Plastic. It lives on plastic for 7 days. So this is really important. This is why you don't want to be outside, because thing is, like, say if someone has COVID and they touch a Twix bar and they open the Twix bar, like, you know how like those crime shows when they'll have like the UV light and you'll see like the fingerprints smudged on something. Yeah. Imagine if that was invisible, lethal black mold that stayed on plastic for 7 days straight. So what you're talking about, someone opens a Twix bar on the street, a tiny fleck of it that he touched falls off and just ends up on the ground, the wind blows, and that tiny fleck hits you at any blemish or pimple or fucking like your mouth or anything, you get COVID, you're dead. So that's all the cities. That's why the way to not get it is to stay organic. You want to be on grass. You have to sleep outside. It's almost like a hippie 12 Monkeys doomsday virus, where all the things that to dance around it, you have to abandon all the fucking like human kill the world, kill the planet things. We can't have plastic anymore. It lives on copper for 4 hours. That's our best bet. But if it lives on plastic and garbage bags, you know what I mean? It's not. That's how it really is. Another thing they don't want to tell you that I'm going to tell you is not only cats and dogs, tigers, lions, ferrets, minks, they all carry it. And all over the African safaris, I can guarantee that if one single human came within 14 feet of any animal that could contract it, it has contracted. All the primates, the gorillas in the mist, they all have COVID. It's like I got stories about it from AP. You know, like I could sit there and go over and over. So all these animals are getting. We don't know if we're the ones communicating and like giving it to the livestock. I don't know if cows can get it. I can't find the information. I've seen chatter about squirrels possibly getting it, and I can't find it. When I try to like Google information, I can't find it. So the thing is,
out of all the people I've talked to about this since it happened, and about everything I've read, like I feel like you seem to be like thinking you have like the worst outlook of any person I've heard talk about it. And I guess, how are you supposed to know what's real and what's bullshit at all? Like, how do you know that all the information that you've been ingesting is 100% legit? You know, because
I've been looking at.
Because I don't know what is legit. All I know is I'm doing what the CDC tells me to do. But then I'm listening to you talk, and you're saying, well, no, it's way worse than that. It's way more fucked up, and you need to be way more vigilant. So, how do you know all this? Is my question.
Well, I have a thing called Twitter and Google, and I'm a journalist, and I've looked at all kinds of different media coming from all points of the earth. And the thing is, I've been looking at what the media of every single country has to say, not just ours. And the thing is, CNN keeps breaking little tidbits of information that I've learned bit by bit by bit, day by day by day. And again, people have been getting the information. They've been taking little tidbits of a larger horrible thing. But the thing is, I have like 1,300 news stories bookmarked on my Google Chrome I could pull out, but unfortunately you're not in front of me. And I can tell you all sorts of different things, but like I'm saying things that like not just the CDC said, but like legitimate health organizations all over the place, different scientists, so like I'm very, very skeptical of a lot of things. I've heard a lot of stuff, but this is the bottom line. It's like 58 days infection, and the whole time you're ultra infectious to everybody else. And again, it's rewriting our RNA strands, and that's why it's giving different disease results. And we don't know if that when we get sick again after 3 months, that it will keep doing the same disease. It might do a completely different disease because it rewrites us in a different way. Wow. Imagine if there was like a computer virus. You just keep getting a new computer virus that's scrambling your hardware.
This is my question. So my sister's a school teacher in Indiana. She's around 100 kids a day. She wears a face shield. They're starting to open up the country. They're starting to say everything's fine. Is that just, in your opinion, is that them just saying, let's fucking get the economy going again? Are they lying to us, do you think?
Well, they're not being forthright about, you basically have to wear a hazmat suit. And if you're not wearing a hazmat suit, you're going to contract it. And and that's it. And you're going to keep contracting because there's no fucking cure. And there's no antibodies. You don't heal and then don't get it again. And not only that, like the early versions they're working on for the vaccines that moved earlier, it's already evolved into all kinds of mutated strains.
Right.
And this was early on. It turned into I think it was India. There was a strain that was isolated that was like, I heard 30 genetic mutations of this like by like March, and then like the line went silent. And it's really crazy because the deeper, darker sort of rabbit hole things I'm looking for, it seems like a oddly concentrated. That like Google is all leading me to a different direction at the same time, and it seems like very orchestrated. That if people were wanting to know certain information, then that they would look the other way. But again, like I've been looking at all the different sources. I've been watching this all happen. And, I'll tell you if something is just my intuition or my idea.
Yeah.
But I'm straight up telling you, just look up cats and dogs and start to think, like, what does that actually mean for me? How does that impact us? And, live 7 days on plastic. And again, like it's and not only that, okay, so when someone even speaks, it lingers in the air for like 14 feet and then slowly drops down after about 30 minutes. Yeah. And the shit's so powerful, it lives on linoleum and it lives on tiling, so it's living on your fucking shoes. If you got snot that's like laying on the ground, it's gonna fucking sit there like invisible black mold. That's how you have to look at this. You know what I mean?
So as far as human beings' vigilance against this, you're saying that it's not enough and we're not taking it seriously enough.
Because we have no precedent for this. This is no scientist has ever seen a virus that does what this thing does. That's why a lot of people think it's straight up from the lab in Wuhan, and there's a lot of evidence to support that. There's really only two options. It's either A, it was created in a lab to do this, and like they didn't really know what they were concocting and it got out. Or B, it was collected in a bat, and it could be something very, very old, okay? And the thing is, like, those bats in that area, in that cave, those people from Wuhan were going to that cave, and they were extracting thousands of bats from this region. And they were basically, like, that lab was known. They were taking bats back, and they were poking around at the bats to try to, like, figure out new viruses or whatever. They might have just pulled out something that, like, only existed in, like, a handful of bats, like that might have been extinct. It could have been around in the Neanderthal days. We don't know because viruses don't leave any fossil record. The only way that we find out about virus fossil records is by studying their DNA trail. Basically, we have to like compute and like study things like in that sort of way. So this virus could be, bats are 52 million years old. This virus could have come whatever. But the thing is, like, the very fact that this thing is again rewriting our RNA strands, that's not something very usual that happens, and it does a lot of other stuff. Again, I don't have all the tech jargon in front of me, but if you look for this information, you'll find it. There was a lot of talk, and this is again, I do want to say this is an important conspiracy thing that people talk about. And in Wuhan, the leader of that organization in that lab, his name was Dr. Zhao, Dr. Peng Zhao, and Dr. Peng Zhao, all throughout the past few years, his research was obsessed with bats and bat viruses, okay? And his thing, the Chinese government were pushing his papers as like, oh, this new communist scientist and, all this. They were trying to make a big face out of him. So basically his research, he was speculating why bats can carry Ebola and Sars and things like that, and it doesn't kill them. Like, how is that possible? So he theorized that basically when mice turned to bats, when they slowly sprouted wings or whatever, there was an evolutionary jump in the genes where like it went to another thing, creating like a dark genetic channel somewhere that like basically like where they were somehow absorbing all these viruses and they were getting lodged like basically in the molecular structure of the bats because of a weird jump in evolution. There was like just some missing little thing. So supposedly he found that dark channel and started pulling out all sorts of fucking crazy shit that no one's ever heard of anything like that before. And then after him talking about that for like months and months and months, and then the communists being, this is a big deal, boom, he vanishes. His staff, those people vanish, and then they just kind of like try to erase him and make him go away. We haven't heard anything about him, and it's all like originating from like his fucking thing. So if it was from a fucking wet market, we don't know. There's another chance. There's a Dutch scientist who did a thing on it where looking at the SARS-2, they found that it has all the features to suggest that it was created in the intestines of dogs. So basically animals can get it, dogs can get it, and it was found that ivermectin kills it. Okay, we don't know if that the it's too toxic for humans to use, but ivermectin is what they give dogs for heartworms and tapeworms. Okay, it's available through the pet people and everything. So there's a chance that when these researchers went to the bat cave in that region to go find whatever, there's a lot of people that think a dog ate a dead bat that got fried from this, and then it circulated among the stray dogs. So there's a chance that one of the researchers might have just stepped in dog piss or dog shit and got it on their shoe and rubbed it and got in their fucking eye. Because the thing is, it seems that I don't know if urine is sterile. I've heard that no, but I don't want to panic people.
It seems that shit might be sterile. I haven't got a straight answer on that, and that's what I'm talking about. Like Google, you're not like dog tests positive in Hong Kong. 8 months ago. We don't have any more stories on this. Cat tests positive wherever. No more stories on this. So anyway, farts are deadly, by the way. So that's the thing. It spreads through droplets of the mouth, but it's farting. So if you go in a bathroom and you pull down your pants to piss or take a shit, all that fart, that's where it's coming from. So basically, like when SARS first happened, one dude taking a shit in a fucking apartment building killed like 38 people when there was that SARS outbreak in 2003.
Wow.
So basically, no public toilet is safe.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I have limited knowledge of all of this, and most of it is based on what I hear from people saying on the internet. And I've been off the internet for about 18 days, so I only watch YouTube videos. But this is definitely food for thought. So you think, out of all the people I know, you think this is like way more sinister of a thing than anyone else I know is letting on, and it's it's making me a little anxious actually listening to all this. But
well, I don't know who else to tell it. I mean,
no. But that's the thing. This is a way for us to have discourse about stuff that A, I don't understand, and B, I'm catching up with a friend that I haven't talked to in quite some time, and yeah, it's alarming. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So what now? This is my question, because we've been talking for about an hour, and I want to touch on a couple other things. So what now? What now?
Oh man.
What does Ryan Bartek think we should do now collectively?
I know what I should do, and I'm hoping people think what should they do, because Trump isn't going to come help you. Okay, it's made very clear that they don't take this seriously, or if they do take it seriously, it will be after he survives this. Maybe. It depends how sick he gets. B, they're not going to tell you any of the stuff that I've been saying on this, because it'll scare the shit out of people and make them panic. And again, anything I've said on this broadcast, you can look up on Twitter or Google search. I mean, you have Google, you have the knowledge of anything you want to know. And I know a lot of people, they've heard enough bad stuff. They get the gist. They don't really want to look at the horror show. They just have heard enough, to be like, and they're either smart enough to say, I don't want to get that, I'm going to avoid people, or B, they're just, they don't care and they just whatever. And that's why all these MAGA people are dying all over the place. That's pretty much our problem. And then we got so many people in self-denial that just refuse to believe any of what's happening. And it's ridiculous. And it's just, even at, it's like, once you know something this severe, you can't just unknow it. I mean, it's one thing to just be like, I forgot where I put my car keys last night when I was coming home. That's one thing. Okay, but if someone runs up and says, hey, you got this, like, you could have this ultra violent, crazy disease, and you're ultra infectious to everyone, and it's lethal to some people, and you're basically a walking biological weapon, and you need to stay indoors for 58 days, or you're going to fucking, like, possibly kill other people. And then there's, I don't care, whatever, and like it's like Idiocracy with a killer plague going on, and a different form of Idiocracy, an even freakier one, because this is worse. So it's not that my outlook. What I think is going to happen is, once the governments get their shit stabilized, however that happens, it's just going to lead to some kind of larger resource Cold War. I don't think it's going to be like a World War III nuclear missile shooting out everywhere. It's going to be a slow resource war over like whatever's left, however it goes. And the thing is, all the different governments, look at what they're doing. They're all like trying to calm their civilians, the same bullshit propaganda, but it's really obvious. It's just wave after wave after wave. Look at the statistics. Look at how this thing is moving. Look at the charts and look at the graphs. Look at the actual projection of the people who are understanding the mathematics and statistics behind this. Don't just, whatever. But it's like the governments of the world are trying to they've been trying to push everything back. The UK just started a massive program. The UK is going to lock every single citizen down and test every single citizen at the same fucking time. Because the thing is, this shit, basically, like, you have to be an island like New Zealand or UK, make everybody quarantine for 60 days straight. And in that meantime, when everybody's inside, you have to dump, like, basically pesticide kind of like viral killer all over the cities. That's what Spain was doing. Because if you look in Madrid and Barcelona, It was in about May. They got ran over by this problem, and then they realized it was living on everything. It's like if you touch metal, it lives on it. Like I said, it's like invisible black mold. So they actually employed like real chemtrails sort of planes, and they were dumping disinfectant all over all their city streets, just gooping it down, just raining it down while all the civilians stayed inside because there was the only way to deal with it. But now Spain is once again getting run over. Another thing people don't understand is that the bodies of the dead are ultra infectious. We can't have open casket funerals. The mortuary people are screwed. The crematorium, you have to be cremated. You can't have. I mean, even in the beginning, China made it all funerals illegal in January, and they made it mandatory cremation for anybody infected. And then they were showing, you'd find pictures from the Associated Press of people in China having funerals, and everybody is having to stand 8 feet apart from each other. The thing is, it's not 6 feet, it's 14 feet. And the thing is, if you look up, if people don't believe me, look up on Google, look up the 28-foot bubble of New Zealand. The way that New Zealand was able to contain this thing was because they lived on an island, they made everybody stay inside, and they said, pretend that you have to have a 28-foot bubble around you at all times. And then they had a whole graph and chart and a CGI, animated segment that they showed to their population. So all that's online, and that's how. So nowhere in the United States they're 6 feet. No, the thing is, shit's airborne. Going into a fucking 7-Eleven is just as dangerous as walking into a shopping mall full of people or a massive, Walmart or something like that. Okay, because the thing is, it lingers in the air. So if some idiot walks up to the counter and is like, "Hey, I want to pay with blah blah blah," and he wasn't wearing a mask. I mean, I'm assuming California's the same where you have mask laws, but not everybody's actually going with it because the 7-Eleven employees aren't going to step up and fight some dude over it. Well, and the cops are spread thin; they can't really do enough.
The masks are required inside, but there's a gas station I go to where the kid working doesn't even have a mask on, and so it seems like where I'm at in Long Beach, a lot of people don't give a shit. But, I mean, any grocery store, everyone's got a mask on. Everyone's standing 6 feet apart, sort of. The dollar stores have really narrow aisles. So I'm freaked out in general. I'm not as vigilant as you are, but I'm definitely, I have a bunch of friends that came into town, and they're like, can you drive us around in your van because we want to see LA? And I'm just like, no. They're like, can we sleep on your floor? And I said, no, you just got off a plane. And I know that you motherfuckers live in Indiana and you're not wearing masks. So, but there are people that think I'm being too vigilant, So I don't, that's the thing. If I use my credit card, I use my debit card and then I immediately get the disinfectant, get the alcohol and try to kill it. I'm not bleaching stuff and putting it in a bag like you, but it's interesting to hear your protocol, someone that's hyper vigilant about it, because I consider myself relatively vigilant about all this, especially because I want to see my mom again, who's 72 years old and has lung problems and is at risk. And it's just, it's a lot, because I think people are they want to go back to the regular life so bad that they're willing to just pretend like this doesn't exist anymore because they're just bored.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's exactly the problem we're talking about, is how long is that self-denial going to hold on for? And the thing is, okay, my protocol, when I go to the supermarket, I go at 5 a.m. when I'm the only one there, and I have those yellow rubber gloves on. I spray them with just bleach water, a little spray bottle, and I have a mask, but I also wrap another thing so it looks like a ninja thing, so it's just on my face, okay? And when I go, the virus can live on metal usually for 13 hours. So most of the cans, Speedo cans, if someone had it and stocked the shelves, it'd be 13 hours. So basically, I fill the cart, I buy all the shit I can, always canned food, and then when I put it in my travel pack, that's when I put it in a black trash bag and just seal it, and I just let the shit sit for 24 hours. You know what I mean? If I eat it immediately, I'm gonna spray it and whatever. But as long as you're buying canned food, you're not touching it, and you just let it sit for 24 hours, you should be okay. But there's certain metals and that it will last up to 72 hours on. And I don't know completely, this little thing fell. But I don't know completely what cans are what, or what material they're made with. So I just want to be safe. So that's how I've been the whole time. But I don't want to end up living like a crazy bag lady, cat lady that's, whatever. But it's really a situation where, like I said, I have vitamin D deficiency. The information that I'm getting is that I'm screwed if I get it. So I have to stay away from people or I could be fucking dead, because literally that's what it does. It basically gives you full-blown fucking AIDS where it just rips open your defenses, lets anything in. The thing is, if you get coronavirus and you got like ultra pneumonia or whatever from that, you can still get infected by regular flu or pneumonia or anything else. It's not like, oh, I just have this, so therefore it's all I have.
Yeah, you're wide open.
You're wide open. So you're talking about, it's not only could it be like viral tuberculosis to you, because again, it's making people sick. It's manifesting different diseases because it's doing a different thing to everyone. Because the disease is a manifestation of what the virus does to you at a smaller level.
Yeah.
So that's why if it's fucking with the RNA code, it's changing the way that your body works. So that's why maybe some people are lucky and it's only hitting weird RNA shit that they don't understand or just do whatever. That's why some people are lucky, some people are catastrophic. But like I said, the problem is that you're going to get it for 58 days. And then some people, it gets really bad and it eats their fucking brain. And you can look it up. Look at CAT scans, okay? CAT scans or whatever. 55% neurologically fried. And then you're healed for 3 months and then you get it again. Whatever. The people thought that people thought that they originally, like, I freaked out because the scientists thought maybe people were just like permanent carriers and it was coming back after, X amount of time. They weren't sure, but it turned out that like you do beat it. It's a different virus that infects, but it's all doing different shit and it's spreading. And again, we don't know how many mutations are even out there. Lowball, I've heard 30. You know what I mean?
Wow.
30 was a French number, I believe, and then the CDC was saying 10, and that was about 2 months ago. But so the one in Texas, it's the one predominantly moving Texas. It's like 100 times more infectious than the earlier version. So again, like this, it's living on plastic. Like basically, you don't want to fucking touch anyone. You don't want to touch money. You want to spend debit card. If you have to go into business, like wear fucking gloves and a mask. Because I see people go in businesses, they got like their nostrils sticking out. And it's like if you're breathing the air, it doesn't do anything. Like. So it's ridiculous. And the thing, when this first started, the first weekend, it was like they sounded the alarm on March 13th, and then they had like 3 days before the governor said on Monday was like, no, we have to clamp down and now live this new world. And they gave us our final weekend where they tried to see like maybe how everybody went to the parks, everybody pretended nothing was wrong, ice cream truck out. And then there's one, I felt like Sarah Connor in fucking Terminator 2 when she's like, like grabbing the fence and you're about to explode. Yeah. And I'm like, I have a bottle of bleach in my hand spraying shit. And I see a woman with like 5 6-year-old kids walking up to 7-Eleven. I'm like, I ran up and I'm like, no, I'm gonna spray the handle. No, it's okay. I got the handle. And she's like, no, it's okay. And she grabs it and just opens it. And then like all the little kids are like touching the door, touching everything. And I'm just like, I couldn't, it was so fucking crazy because like the information is there. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. You know what I mean? It's in your fucking face. There's a killer plague. You can't just fucking like pretend and touch stuff. And this thing, like people walking on the buses, and in Portland, we started. The drivers say now the drivers are smart. They're wearing full face shields, like hazmat, because chances are, if it's lingering in the air and you walk through it, it gets in your eyes because it's also an ocular parasite. Yeah. Okay. And so ivermectin, there's body ivermectin and eye drop ivermectin, and there's a chance that might be what fucking kills it. And I contacted tons of health departments, and there was a lot of information about that. But I don't know where the trail has led. But there was lots of like serious medical departments. There was like breakthroughs in Australia, but it was like months ago, and I haven't looked. I mean, it could be if all the animals are getting infected, we need to treat it like a parasite. You know what I mean? It's like it's nuts. And I mean, you can keep going down the rabbit hole with all kinds of things, but it's like I was reading Robert Kirkman with Walking Dead when he talks about eventually the survivors of the zombie apocalypse, they won't, if you said how the zombie apocalypse started, like they wouldn't even care. Like at that point, like they just be like, oh, okay, that's how it, whatever. It wouldn't really affect them. And at this point, it's like, we know what it's doing. We know it's out there. It doesn't even matter where it came from at this point. It's just, you know what I mean? What are we going to do? China will never admit if it leaked from a laboratory, and anybody who knows is dead. And anybody who does know is a runaway medical person who's a doctor that worked for them at these places and is sounding the alarm and saying shit to the media, and they're being discredited because they're popping up on Russia Today or Steve Bannon's whatever. Anyone who will talk to them, but the people that will talk to them are the more outside. They don't want anyone on major TV saying like it's definitely from Wuhan and it's a fucking weapon or some Franken virus. Like, let's just see what this thing can do if we do this and this, then it just gets out. Because should I?
I was just gonna say, so knowing, like having the frame of reference that you have and the perspective that your personal perspective on all of this, how do you go about your day? How do you stay sane? Like how, like are you, like are you all right, man?
Yeah, I know. I'm extremely well. You'd be surprised. I feel like it's, that end shot in Fight Club where they're holding hands and the credit card towers are falling?
Yes.
We're there because everybody's been reset to zero. That's what I wanted to see. That's what, as far as like punk rock, all this stuff, everything I set out for, I wanted level, equal playing field. And I wanted to see the have-nots know what it's like to have a little, just a bit. And I wanted the haves to know what exactly it's like to be a have-not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And part of me here, I feel like Dennis Leary and Demolition Man. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Portland is that weird future where everything is like really politically correct, but now it's like crumbling with this fucking thing. And now it's just, I know people who are sane and are on my side and living in my world, but all the other people aren't. They're just, until someone comes and like says like, no, that you're living a false reality, but there's no one to do it. There's no police. They've all vanished. They're either vanished and they're dealing with people dying in their homes from COVID and like secretly doing shit, or they're chasing around protesters. That's pretty much it. I see one cop every once in a while. That's it. And they just aren't there.
So that's the scene in Portland right now.
Yeah, I think that's the scene in a lot of places. But the way I've been staying safe, like I had all sorts of life projects that I've been finishing up on, writing the music, releasing the book, finishing writing. And the thing is, like, in this time, I'm using all the stuff I can. But the thing that keeps me sane is going to be the community work, because no matter how bad I have it, someone has it worse. And the thing is, I'm a able-bodied, 40-year-old, still semi-spring chicken. I'd say young man, but I'm still have it, and I'm going to do my best to get life-saving equipment in the hands of fucking people. And poor people are all over the place. Tons of people on the streets that have never been on the streets before. And on top of that, we had all those forest fires from Labor Day until like it was September 9th to like September 4th. It was completely smoke. It looked like the apocalypse here. It was nothing but smoke.
Same down
People
here.
couldn't breathe. It was talking about like something like hundreds of thousands of people lost their homes. So we just added to the fucking homeless situation here. So all these people that are going to washing ashore here, and they're all living in their cars. There's nowhere to get water unless you have food stamps and you're buying water or you know someone. But the thing is, like I said, like the people who are in homes and pretending that things are going to go back to normal and they have money for now. They're calling the cops on the homeless encampments, trying to get them pushed out, because that's the first thing. They got to point the finger at the dirty homeless people, get rid of them, and we can keep pretending that everything is normal. But the cops aren't there to enforce it or chase. And then where are they going to go? You know what I mean? It's just every single day someone else is dumped to the street. I don't even know what the rate is, but it's like dozens of people every single day, if not hundreds. And now with all the fires and everything. But I want people to live in reality, and this is a fucking kick in the ass, and it makes people wake up. And that's was always the punk rock revolutionary idea with me: make people wake the fuck up and live a little. And it's just this, again, all the sports shows have been canceled. You finally broke that hypnotic trance for who knows how long, with all those fucking jocks that have with their father and their grandfather and whatever, that have just stared at football nonstop their whole lives, and that's just gone. You take away movies, you take away punk rock, you take away heavy metal, you take away rock and roll, you take away dance clubs, no more rave parties. All it's been outlawed. There's no more Disneyland, no more amusement parks, no more public pools, no more gyms. Thing is, I've been staying at a band practice space, and I stay elsewhere at night. So the band practice space is my place I hang out. The thing is, I always usually used to take a shower at the gym before work, because it was right on the way to my work. So the thing is, there's no more gyms anymore. So all the people that were like semi-homeless or living in their cars or couch surfing or whatever, they don't have anywhere to shower anymore. And none of the gas stations will let them use the bathroom. And anybody, you know what I mean? So it's like, even if the economy came back, no one has a way to fucking shave or fucking, you know what I mean? Nobody has money to buy new socks. And it's not, and you can't really do, it's not safe to do like public feeds, like Food Not Bomb style or whatever. I mean, when the Christians go out and try to like give soup to homeless people, it's not safe to do that anymore. You don't know who's making your food. This thing, like, I don't know who's making McDonald's food. I don't trust my life with the hands of some 10-year-old, like 15-year-old kid making $10 an hour. You know, you can't fucking do it. And then McDonald's is being so safe, and I walk up, and then the person in the drive-thru doesn't have gloves, and they're touching the money and coins that people are handing them with bare hands. It's just the second that someone touches an infected bill, boom, it's just so infected, like a whole place is infected. So like, that's it. We have intervals where we're not sick for 3 months, and then we get it again, and we don't know what it does. And it's slowly eating people's brains. We're talking about 50% of people, it's eating their fucking brain. So we don't, how many waves before these people are driven fucking crazy? Like I said, 55% neurological. They took CAT scans of their heads, and they look like fucking they've been on meth for 10 or 15 years nonstop. And they're all fucked up. They got ultra permanent fatigue. The slang word, they call it long hauler. They're called long haulers. That's the new. Look it up on Google. Long haulers, and they're the people that like they've been sick with COVID, not just for 58 days, but for like a month, like for like way longer. There's people that are still sick 6 months later, dude. Like they got it and they're still fucking sick. And if they aren't sick, it's fried their veins and like they can't breathe anymore. It eats holes in the lungs. It fucking eats holes in the brain. Like all this crazy shit. And again, I sound like possibly a ranting lunatic if you're hearing all this stuff for the first time. But it's like, yeah, I'm telling you the best I know. I want to be disproved. But again, like anything I've said in this broadcast, just Google, go on Twitter, just look stuff up. Like if you really want to know what's happening, you got to get on Twitter. Twitter's the fucking source. And there's all sorts of like news outlets that aren't, you know, slow paced, you know, baby stepping CNN and the apocalypse. And then you got Fox News who are just following Trump because they're propaganda. And you got a couple people in the middle, but it's like even the left-wing media is still right-wing compared to how most, you know, Europeans think or how I think. I'm pretty far left, you know, but so
man, how would the plot of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch apply to all of what's going on right now?
Well, I had a idea for Dark Half 2, and I had an idea for Halloween 3. I had an idea for Halloween 3 that I wanted to try to sell to Deborah Hill, which is John Carpenter's wife producer. Yeah. And the idea was like, it'd be like years in the future, and when he was going, don't stop. Somehow when they blew up the place with all the Stonehenge, it shut down the plot, and then Conal Cochran was dead until the plants aligned themselves correctly like 30 years later, and then he would like be reborn through like the electricity gremlin in Gremlins 2. Remember the electricity gremlin?
Oh yeah, electric gremlin. Yeah.
Come through the phone. Yeah, he'd come through the phone like that, and when he like went, he'd be like a young Conal Cochran. He'd be like 21 and like all dapper and shit, like Lucifer, and fucking, and it'd be this whole thing about how he's going after a Halloween of today and all the things, and you know he's got his robots back because now we think the robots are cool and they aren't stupid anymore. So he gets all the robots like Michael Myers back. But the very end of the movie is like in Jeepers Creepers 2 with the old farmer, and he's got the guy on the wall, you know, and he's gonna. Did you ever see Jeepers Creepers 2?
I saw the first one.
Okay, Jeepers Creepers 2 ending. It's really cool. This farmer gets his kid abducted by it at the beginning of the movie, and then at the end of the movie he kills him, and he's got him like all like taxidermied in a wall, and he's just sitting there waiting for him to come back. But I would have it be Tom Atkins, like the doctor who survived the first one, and he's got like mummified Conal Cochran on the wall, and he's just sitting there with a shotgun or something. But anyway, he's the one who takes Conal Cochran out at the end with like a shotgun. He just like blows off his head or something. But it'd be updated where Conal Cochran's young and he comes back and like, oh, magic, and he doesn't need a fucking any sense to make anything that's happening in the first movie. I don't need anything to make sense to bring him back either.
So the Halloween 3, the sequel by Ryan Bartek.
Yeah, season of the witch.
Seasons of the Witch.
Yeah, the night or it's Night of Silence. Just call it Season of the Witch. Yeah. Season of the Witch is, I don't know. There's a lot of money in that, but anyway, blah blah blah.
So wrestling. But I just, you know, let's conclude this conversation with something about wrestling. Why not?
Yeah, I always loved wrestling growing up as a little kid. We were around the same age, and then you know the different things, and you know, there's people who look at wrestling like dead serious, but there's people also look at it as if they were a cast or crew member that was part of the theater and get the in jokes and whatever. And you know, watching the commentary of JR and Jim Lawler is kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it's always the greatest match they've ever seen, and this, and you either get the joke and you like the middle school humor or not. Okay, and there's different eras of it and all this, but anyway, the point is, even in the apocalypse, I'm going to say pro wrestling is one of the best things about life. Even if the plague got me tomorrow, no matter what, I still have my WWE app. I'm down to like $100 to my name, but I'm still paying $10 a month so I can fucking watch all this shit. And, you know, I love it all. And the thing is, I wanted to be a heel manager. Before all the world went to shit, I put out my new book and I sent it to a bunch of the pro wrestling magazine places. And I said, I'm an up and coming heel manager, and see if they'd review my book. And I haven't Googled myself to see. But I really wanted to like get in the local thing and just be like a Jim Cornette or something like that, or Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby's like one of my big influences. And the thing is, my writing career, you know, if you look at my books, you have to understand the joke of the heel manager, because I kind of push myself as like ridiculous sort of heel manager, supervillain journalist sort of thing. And it's real tongue in cheek, but a lot of people don't always get that joke or hate pro wrestling. But it's like, whatever. In Portland, it's not popular. They don't like Portland. They don't like ICP very much in Portland. The crust punks, you know. What's
you know,
I'm not
like?
a juggalo, but I don't have any problem with ICP. They've always been cool to me, and they wrestle and shit. Actually, I like their wrestling commentary more than I like their music. They're really fucking funny on Stranglemania. If you ever watch,
it's classic.
Any of that shit. Yeah, it's hilarious. And the thing, another band. They don't make context outside of Detroit 1993. You have to be a kid who grew up watching professional wrestling in Detroit and from that era to truly understand where ICP is coming from, because they're clowns who told a joke, and then the juggalos and stuff that happened in the wider world were fucking kids that fell into their joke and like were part of their joke back and forth. Whereas like you and I are just fucking clowns that are telling our own jokes. You know what I mean? And but yeah, they're cool guys, whatever. Anyway, so like, Portland is one of these places. They hate professional wrestling here. They're really politically correct. They're fucking walking around with their stupid beards, not wearing masks. And the thing was, this place was the artist city, and everybody would come here. But now all the art has been canceled. There's nowhere to play music. There's none of this shit. So basically, like, it's a bunch of people paying way too much money for some fucking condo that they're going to get kicked out of in March anyway, and all be in the apocalypse. Because eventually, even if it doesn't matter who's on the streets in fucking the winter this year, you're all going to be on the fucking streets next winter. Watch the shit. So learn to swim, motherfuckers. That's what I'm saying. Tool. The new Tool album's pretty fucking good. But yeah, learn to swim, you fucks. And I'm the one that's going to be probably handing you a fucking tent and a sleeping bag when I run into you. And I'll still smile. I'll be nice. I don't want any of this to be happening, but I'll try to help you. But until then, if you're a dick, learn to swim.
Well, there you go. I think that's a good way to wrap it up, Bartek. Coach Snake, a.k.a. Bartek Sizzle, a.k.a. Ryan Bartek, a.k.a. Mabus. The man, the myth, the legend. Thanks for being on my podcast, man.
Now everybody, again, one last thing, just look up The Big Shiny Prison is a book Neil is featured in, Downtown Brown, and I have a sequel called Fortress Europe. I have a book called To Live and Die on Zug Island. It's a free download. Just look up Ryan Bartek, Bartek, free download, and you'll find tons of shit, and especially on archives.org or on YouTube or whatever. Just Google me, you'll find my shit. Thank you very much, people.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for being on here, and take care of yourself. And keep sending me, like, I appreciate it, because I've been off social media. I'm going to do a month, but I have a feeling I'm just going to go longer, because this is the most connected I've felt with myself in a long time. In 2005, MySpace came out, and for the last 15 years, I've pretty much been screaming, look at me on the internet for 15 years. So I appreciate the fact that you still text me and send me links, and that, I'm archiving your MediaFire stuff too as well. I have a folder on my computer here, so that's why I wanted to have you on here, because I'm thinking about who should I have on the podcast this week, and it's like, who do I even fucking talk to? I talked to Bartek, so here we go. Here we are, my man.
All right.
So yeah, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'm gonna get on Google and look up some of the shit you talked about, and we'll see if I can, create a vigilance of my own.
Okay, and everyone, I just want to say again, I'm just reciting things that seem real to me, and I'm not delusional. If you Google this stuff, you'll find it. I hope the worst of it isn't true, and maybe some is misinformation, but at the same time, once you know something that serious, you can't unknow it and pretend you never heard it. And I want everyone out there to be safe. And again, if you should run into shit, come find me, and I'll hook you up with a tent and a tarp and a sleeping bag.
Come to Portland, visit Bartek. All right, buddy. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna wrap this up.
All right.
Hey, Coach. Thanks. It's great to talk with you, and stay in touch. All right, man.
Yeah, and everybody read about on the Kabbalah. Learn about the tree of life and tarot and the Kabbalah and how that all works together. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my friend Ryan Bartek. And possessing knowledge that I don't necessarily have and believing things I don't know if I necessarily believe. But it's interesting to hear other people's perspective on all of this. Very intense. If what he's saying is true, we could be royally shit fucked. But if he's just being super hyper vigilant, then he's going to be safe. And maybe the rest of us will see the other side of all of this. Who knows? Recording a podcast on Skype, on the internet, talking with humans, being weird. That's what we do. That's what life is. And it feels good being off social media. And then on the other hand, I feel very anxious after talking to my friend Bartek. But he's an anxious dude. And who knows? Who knows? Not I. I am just a dude that knows not much.